I left you guys on a cliffhanger on last week's episode, so here's what happened next. Vespoka steps in with a tail swipe, a ring of peace from the monk, and finally a wing buffet from Vespoka again, before the monk bonks it with a little death touch. Disaster averted. Then we finish off the lashes like nothing happened. If you guys are enjoying this series and want to see more, then please drop a like down below to let me know, and also subscribe if you're new or haven't already. But let's get on with the rest of the key. On to Laymore then. I do actually really like this boss. It does get very sketchy on higher keys, where the combo of explosive brand and consuming stomp become one-shot territory. Specifically the stomp, but as long as you have a minor defensive up for every single one, you should be fine. I pop a hardened scales just in case, but after all it is only a +2. The main reason I like this boss is the ability to pad. Being a BM hunter main, my pets always position themselves behind the boss, and obviously the tank picks up the adds in front, so I never actually get to cleave. So it was nice to fire off a deep breath over them all here. More shrieking whelps to skip here. Can our friends do it? Looking good so far. Come on, Mr. Pally, I believe. Not even close. So in higher keys, I will put more of the trash in the video, but there wasn't really anything to note in the trash leading up to the second boss, especially on this key level, so I'll leave that for the higher keys. But on to Azure Blade. This boss honestly scares the life out of me. Adds that one-shot you if they get cast off, a bowling ball at your face while you're distracted nuking down the ad, an intermission phase that deals some rather large damage, all while dodging more balls and swirlies on the ground. This boss really is a caster's worst nightmare. As I'm starting to learn my new class a bit more, I'm getting to grips with the utility I bring as well, so I pop a Zephyr here that's going to reduce all our damage taken by 30% and also increase our movement speed, which is especially nice for this phase. This ability is a really nice addition to the Evoker toolkit, so make sure you're making the most out of it. We get the boss down, and in lower keys your tanks might not be all clued up on the percent they need before progressing through the dungeon. So I remind him that we need to take this pack on the right before we go down, otherwise we'll be lacking on enemy forces count at the end of the dungeon. He almost ran out without a care in the world, but luckily he caught it in chat before we all followed him. Again, nothing really to report back on at this key level for the trash, and I'm sure a lot of you don't really care for these lower keys, so we'll skip over it for now, and when the abilities from trash start to actually matter, I'll go over my thought process behind the different packs we face and what to look out for. That being said though, we were fighting these two breakers before the third boss, and our pally friend stood a little too close to the edge when he got shoulder slammed and ended up in Narnia. Unfortunately, I didn't catch a good angle for it because that would have been jokes. The monk healer did have a good little chuckle from it, but it has happened to the best of us. Not me though, of course. So with this boss, the tank was so disappointed in our pally that he just decided to pull without him, so he had to 4-man this boss. Luckily this boss got nerfed a while back, so it's actually pretty free now, because the frost bombs don't one-shot you anymore. Though it did kill our paladin because I'm pretty sure he still got the bomb even though he actually wasn't on the platform, but we'll blame that one on the tank. In higher keys, when the boss finishes his absolute zero cast, I'll probably pop a defensive or a Zephyr to reduce the damage we take, as it does kinda slap, especially on Tyrannical. As soon as we get Grey Wing down, I fly around to try and res the pally, but he releases out of shame and meets us down at the last boss. The last boss of our +2. It's looking like we're going to 2-chest this Azure Vault as long as nothing goes too wrong. We have Lust for this boss too, which I'd always recommend holding it for. You don't really need it for the first boss, but this last one definitely can get a bit spicy. Devastation Evoker actually seems like a really nice class here though, because we're going to get a lot of value from our mastery, which makes us do more damage the higher the mob's health is. Really underrated for the crystals, especially with the front-loaded damage we have, so I'll have to learn the timings for my abilities so that they're always up for them. There it is. We completed our first Mythic Plus dungeon and get a whopping 67 score out of it. A pretty smooth run, but I'd hope to expect that out of a +2. We did get out DPS by the tank, but remember, I am 310 item level, and I have no idea what buttons I should be pressing. A nice intellect one-hander and cloak drop, but unfortunately the guys do need them, so I can't equip it to go with my offhand that I got from Veximus last episode. I realised this later, but I did get a bit ahead of myself sending these mythic keystones so early. I was just so excited about the weekly heroic cache that we'll be opening at the end of this video, so I wanted to get them done ASAP. But I definitely should have gone out and done some world quests and the world boss to get a quick boost of eye level if we got lucky. I also at some point will be spending the gold I got from leveling this character on some BOEs off the auction house, just to bump up the lower pieces of gear that need it. But like I said, I will only be using the gold this character has acquired itself. I won't be sending any gold over to it. Anyway, the Keystone turned into a +4 Court of Stars. A really nice and free key, or at least I hope. Our monk friend signs up again from the last run, so I double check that it's them and get them in. They did a good job last key, even while on a Mistweaver, we gotta respect that. We then get a tank that's depleted a +8 Court of Stars. He is quite geared for this level, but we all know how rare tanks are, so we can't be too picky. At this point, I ask if we have an alchemist in the group to make the first boss a lot quicker. Alchemists and rogues can poison the flask that he drinks and kill him at 25% health. So especially when the key level gets higher, you want to make sure you have at least one of these in your group, because not only will the boss live for another 25% health, but he will also gain a buff. This 2k mage signs up, but like I said, I don't want to be carried through this series, so we pretend like he's not there and keep searching. I think he was offended by this and probably has me on a spreadsheet forever now, but first he whispered me in all caps begging me to accept him. I wonder what he wanted so desperately from in here. Mages, let me know. We ignore him and get Stealing Steve in. I definitely took him for the OP name and not anything to do with his poisons. I start the key and almost regret my decision instantly to take Big Stevie Boy because he does a 180 and just runs out of the dungeon. You cannot trust these goblins, man. I guess he was just changing a talent though, because he quickly sneaks back in like nothing happened. Again, it's only a +4, so I won't go over too much of the trash at this point, but later in the series we'll break down the scarier ones. You will want to watch out for these mana sabers though. Try not to stack on each other as range like me and my monk friend here, as they will leap to a ranged player and do an AoE swipe that puts a heavy dot on everybody hit. You'll definitely want to pop a defensive for these in higher keys. Warrior tank is slamming on damage. He only has about 80 item levels on me, so we'll allow it. These sentries have some important kicks. If they're solo, you can let the charging station go through because it heals mobs around it and not actually themselves. But obviously, if we pulled it with other mobs, this would be a priority kick. Big AoE pull Inc. This is what I live for, and I cannot wait until I stop tickling the mobs and just AoE Control Alt Delete the world in front of me. Like I said, here we pull a construct with other mobs, so I interrupt the charging station. I'm not sure if we overlapped kicks here, but my guy Steve lets the suppress almost take me out. I thought we were friends, Steve. Patrol Captain Gerdo. A pain to deal with, especially on a class with wings. On the Hunter, I simply just disengaged this Arcane Lockdown debuff to instantly remove all 3 stacks, but on my new class, I have to time my jumps to perfection so that I don't leap forward with my wings into a Resonant Slash. Big up Steve for poisoning the flask, and we take out the first boss. The Imps. Every pug's worst nightmare. I charge up a big fire breath to burst them down, but miss half of them because I forgot this bloody class is a pretend ranged class. I'm a scumbag here and line of sight the end of the cast so that I'll live if nobody else interrupts them, but the Mistweaver Chad keeps us all topped. I hold on to my burst for the 2-pack, for the imps that come around, and this time execute a big fire breath, deep breath wombo combo that DRs the AoE stun from the monk. All planned of course, but we managed to take them out before they wipe us. And by we, I mean the prot warrior. Another set of imps. Will it ever stop?
I need to get closer.
I feel like I'm going to be getting used to this dialogue, but we get in range and use our Tip the Scale CD to instantly cast a fully empowered Eternity Surge before they all target me and Steve with Firebolt. Bros till the end. We respawn and move on to our second Enforcer kill. With these mobs, the only thing you need to worry about is being able to line of sight the Fell Detonation cast, so hopefully your tank will position them by a corner for you to easily maneuver around. Killing these Enforcers triggers one of the mini bosses surrounding the second boss to come over and inspect what's happened, and then we ambush them. This second one is arguably the scariest. We need a kick for every disintegration beam, and it's also going to cast a debuff on 2 players called Impending Doom, which is going to deal huge damage around us when it expires or is dispelled. So you'll definitely want to be popping a defensive for these. On to our last Enforcer to spawn the easiest mini-boss, the Fell Guard. Dodge the frontal shockwave, it's bigger than you think, and get out of the humongous swirly when he leaps to a random player. Easy. Moving on, we've now got more than enough trash count and we engage with the second boss. Probably the hardest boss in here, honestly. Save big AoE burst and CC for the imps that she spawns, make sure you're stacked up to spawn them together, and kick Withering Soul whenever she casts it. It's not going to be too much of an issue on Fortified, but on Tyrannical, believe me, she is scary. Your boy guesses the intruder first time, standard, and we take out the final mini-boss before I get hypnotized by this bat after we've killed it. Last boss in court. Ideally, you'd like to keep one person out at range to bait the Blade Surge cast to the same spot every single time. This will make dodging Piercing Gale 10 times easier, and then just use a defensive for every slicing Maelstrom cast. Pretty simple boss, but the AoE damage can get spicy for your healers the higher you go. We loot a nice 379 neck piece with quite possibly our worst stats, but beggars can't be choosers, and of course, because I'm not on the hunter, the auto attack ring drops. Why wouldn't it? This neck piece takes us up to 314 item level, so I'm kind of a big deal now. And more importantly, we completed our weekly quest, so it is time to open it. Okay, so I wanted to do this live now, so we have just finished the Emissary of War quest. So we're going to run over here and speak to our guy and open our heroic weekly cache. Now, without saying too much, so I don't want to jinx myself, there is one heroic item that would go down very well for the evoker. Obviously, so we are still 314. I haven't done anything off recording. I'm doing this all recorded, but I am doing it off stream. So I thought I would just jump on quickly now and open my cache while I am live to see my live reaction if we get something PogChamp. I did this on my hunter and only got a Spiteful Storm. I don't even know if it's good. I really wanted the heroic Ratsbow, which everybody seems to be getting. But let's open this and hopefully get something that only evokers can get. Ready? I'm not going to look.